Here. How are you doing, Karen McMahon?
I am doing pretty well under the circumstances, thanks. I'm in New
Well,
York and the sun is shining and it's almost 60 degrees, so it's a good day.
well, let's just jump in there. Well, we won't start there yet. I'll tell everybody why I have you on. I've had you on several podcasts, a number of videos, but you own a company called Journey Beyond Divorce, and tell everybody what that does, and then we'll jump into what we're talking about.
Yeah, so we work with men and women in the before, during, and after stages of divorce to help navigate both the emotional turmoil and the complex logistics of divorce. And we do one-on-one coaching, as well as we've got a podcast and other resources that we offer to help people out.
And you also recently, I don't know how recent, but you have a Facebook community page too, right?
We launched a Facebook community for, especially now with everyone feeling so isolated, a place where people can come and connect and get support and empathy and encouragement, especially while in lockdown, if you're in lockdown with your soon-to-be ex.
Well, wow. I wasn't even thinking about that till you said it. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, that would be difficult. Hey, let's do this. Let's get some business out of the way for you, and then we'll do some question answers. You have a new series, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's Divorcing a Narcissist, and there's more after that. Tell everybody what that is.
Yeah, so we launched a series on divorcing a narcissist and high conflict divorce, and we're in the early stages. Our first 2 episodes have gone live. And there's so much brilliant and wonderful material out there for people who are having standard, reasonable divorces, and not nearly as much for the high conflict divorce, which is more complex, more emotionally traumatizing. And so we are doing 24 episodes, and we're talking to psychologists and custody evaluators, an attorney for the children, and parental alienation, and all of the complexities. We're touching on international divorce and the complexities of international divorce. So to really try to fill a void and provide a lot of resources for people in the highly complex, high conflict divorces.
Mine was not high conflict, but I can't imagine. I mean, the emotional side of it, to me, even when it was a pretty easy process, as far as easy can be in that world. But there are so many, and I say the word imaginary barriers when I know that they're not imaginary when they're to you, when that's your reality. But it's almost like the mouse in the maze. We turn and there's a wall there, and we almost feel like we have no other recourse other than to go. And what I have found, at least when I was talking with you and some other folks as I went through this process, was so many of those walls we ran into were put there by me. You know, it was up to me to kind of find a way to get through that wall, because it wasn't a real wall. It was mental things I'd put in my own way.
Yeah, I was just going to say that so many of the obstacles that we believe are external to us are actually between our ears. And so much of the work that we do is really inviting people to look at their story and their perspective and the emotions that come out of that, and broaden their perspective. We only know what we know. There's everything that we don't know, and that's like the whole world. And so divorce is a great opportunity to recalibrate the way you look at the world and engage with it.
The good thing is, if you are divorcing a narcissist, the narcissist will never listen to your podcast, because they're not a narcissist. They'll tell you they're not. Right. So it's almost like secret. You'll have some secret ammunition against it. I've never known a narcissist to go, "Hey, I'm a narcissist." Yeah.
Yes, most of them aren't very introspective. That is one of the foundational tells.
Look at you you're really keeping your professional hat on. Yes, Clint, most of their internal voices. Dadgummit. Hey, so, one of the reasons I sent these invites out to do these shorter videos today is because no matter where you're at in the United States or in the world right now, but especially the United States, we're all kind of living somewhat similar lives. We're on lockdown, most of us. How has it affected your world? I talked to a guy here in Chattanooga today. I talked to a guy in Las Vegas. I'll be talking to someone in southern Florida later. You're right outside New York. How's it affected your world?
Yeah, so we're one of the major epicenters of the illness, and so it's when I tune into what's going on, it's really scary. The hospitals are full. The nurses and doctors. I do think we're going to have an industry that is going to need a lot of support through PTSD after this, because what they're dealing with is really hard. And for the rest of us, the idea is stay home, and stay distant. And so I work from home anyway. So for a lot of people who are, challenged with the work at home, that's common for me. I have both of my adult children home, which is a real gift. They were thousands of miles away.
Wow.
And not because of coronavirus, but I am just so grateful that they're both under my roof right now. And so I get to spend a lot of time with two amazing human beings who will be leaving when they can.
Well, though, I don't know how you are. I'm fine. I'm a kind of extrovert introvert. I'm an extrovert when I have to be, but I like being at home most of the time. And I'm fine with that until somebody tells me I can't go somewhere, and then I want to go everywhere.
Yeah. So after our conversation, me and my daughter are going to drive down to the beach, which is very big and very empty, and enjoy some fresh air. And that's one of the things I've really been encouraging people. It's like, you don't want to gather in groups, but you might have seen a lot of memes on social media these days about dogs asking their owners to go back to work because they're tired of being walked like 20 times a day.
Yeah, I was in the habit of laying on the couch. Leave me alone.
So my son came home with a Saint Bernard who has become like my favorite furry friend, and so we go on lots of walks every day, and that helps to just with the cabin fever and the feeling like you're stuck.
Well, we were talking about that before we came on. There was 3 or 4 things you mentioned, and I just kind of made a note of them as we are. I think people are using either destination listening, whether it's radios that are putting out programs that you can go back and listen to at any time. I have one at Marketing Mix Radio, or podcasts like you have. But there's some things that we can do, or you were talking about, while we're on lockdown that you have to worry about. Some self-care things, some boundaries, and controlling our minds and our thoughts. And I'll let you address those in whatever order you want to.
Yeah. So I think, we've been asking our community what's going on, and there's a lot of feelings of loneliness if you're living alone, overeating if you're you have too much time on your hands and you're binging on Netflix. And
my quarantine food's not going to make it. I can tell you that right now.
Say that again?
The food I bought to make it through a 90-day quarantine, it ain't going to make it.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I told my daughter, I was like, I just need to either stop hanging out with you or just stop eating like you, because I'm just, I'm expanding. And so, yeah, to be more conscious of moving our bodies. And I think it's really important that even though you're not supposed to be out with a group of people, you're allowed to leave your house and walk around your neighborhood and walk your dog and get some fresh air. And if the sun is shining, get some sunshine and take advantage of that. In fact, you might find yourself moving more than you typically do. And if you're a gym person, or I was just speaking to someone and they said, I'm taking all of these, there's so many online yoga classes and other things like that. So all of those of us who are in any helping modality are really looking to say, how can I support my people while I can't be face to face with them? And so be creative and figure out what would serve you and spend some time doing that.
How about how did you word it? Let me write the minding your thoughts is what you said.
Yeah.
So instead of me trying to come up with some fancy way, you said minding your thoughts. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, like you and I said just before, even going through divorce, such a large part of your obstacles were in your head. And so it's very easy to catastrophize, especially when we're actually in a catastrophe, in a pandemic. And yet, one of the things we talk to our clients about is keep your head where your feet are. Don't be in next week and next month and next year now, because you're going to get physically stressed. The more stressed you get, the lower your immune system. So you're actually hurting yourself instead of helping yourself. And so while it's important to say, and much like you, I mean, my business has fallen off because people are afraid of their money.
Yeah.
So do I go into this whole thing of, oh my God, and what do I have to do? And do I have to close down my business? And, should I go out? Slow it down, stay with the day, look at the numbers, make the phone calls, talk to the bank and the landlady or whoever you have to talk to, but mind your thoughts, because if you go to worst case scenario, number one, it may not happen. And number two, it's stressing your system. And it also brings us to a level of emotional energy that invites more conflict and difficulty, right? And so here you are, if you're a family, your kids are e-learning, you're working from home, there's like no privacy, there's no silence. And so everyone's on edge to begin with. To allow your thoughts to then go to those dangerous places doesn't really serve you.
And most of the time, not all the time, sometimes we're right, but most of the time, the worst case scenarios that we put in our brain rarely happen.
They're never going to happen.
And that happened when, when you're going through divorce. We talked about this when I was talking with you. You paint all these scenarios of what the other person was doing or the why they're doing it. And very rarely is that the case. Most times they're just tired of your crap or you're tired of their crap.
Right. And that's the stories that you create, right? And we actually did an entire podcast on what's your story. And since you're the narrator of it, why don't you change it? And the same goes for society in general right now. And that's not to diminish that there are people who are at high risk. There are people in our community who are living with an abusive soon-to-be ex, and now they're in lockdown, and it's really difficult. So there are plenty of many difficult situations. There are people losing their jobs. And so we're not diminishing that. We're simply saying, stay with what is, and don't live into the catastrophe of what might be.
Though, you said something that I have not thought about, and it's easy when you've never been through something to dismiss it as very, it's very minimal. It's not that many, or doesn't really matter. But if you're stuck in this quarantine or social distancing, and you're a child or husband or wife, but you're with someone who is abusive or to the extreme narcissist, this is almost your worst nightmare. Right. Because there is no going to work to escape or school to escape. I will say this, and I'll give really bad advice. They can call you for the really good advice. The police are still making house calls.
Yes.
So,
and that's not necessarily bad advice.
I'm just saying,
but the truth is, and that speaks to another topic I mentioned, which is boundaries. And so there's two different things. One is, well, how much can I do if I'm stuck in the house? Well, you can go for a walk. You can go for a walk in the rain. So you can always pick up and leave. And, we could have a whole show on boundaries. When you set a boundary, like, I'm working in my bedroom, please respect that and don't come in. And someone plows that down and comes in and, behaves in a way that's displeasing. You can't get them to behave differently, but you can put on your rain jacket and walk out the door and go for a walk and create some space. You can choose not to engage, not to take the bait when they're baiting you. You can, and the best way to do that is to create a mantra. Like for me, creating a mantra is something I recommend as a great boundary. And so what you're doing is you're saying, we spoke about that. I'm not going to talk about that again. Or we agreed that we were holding that until next week, or whatever your statement is. You come up with a statement and you just say it literally over and over again so that you don't get baited into, because the minute you start defending yourself and explaining yourself, you're fully engaged with this person who is purposely baiting you. So for those in that very complex situation of living with someone who's a pathological narcissist, and that could be someone who's an addict or an alcoholic with those tendencies, you know, come and check us out. And we want to, that's what we're doing on our Facebook page. We're going back and forth and like coaching and supporting people in the moment, because it's difficult and there are always options.
Well, and I'm writing some stuff down because two things I wanted to bring up. One was sometimes I think there are a high number of them, people do bait you on purpose, but I also think there's a lot of people that are just like I was or you were, even if it's not narcissist behavior, that are completely unaware of their cycles. So I think they're probably doing stuff that comes across to other people as intentional, but it's really how it's their coping mechanism. It's how they respond to conflict. And the second thing is, if you start setting boundaries with people, it's amazing how often they will tell you, you know, you're being really defensive. Yes. You're really, you know what I'm saying? Once you say no, they're like, well, you're very, we don't need to argue. I'm not arguing. I'm saying no.
You're being defensive. You're being selfish. And you're absolutely right. The bottom line is this is a time where a lot of people are reactive. They're reactive because they're scared. They're reactive because they're not in control. And so you don't have to interpret or analyze why they're behaving the way they are. You just need to keep your side of the street clean, right? Which is, okay, what do I need? What do I need to be as calm and centered and level-headed as possible? And if I need to set a boundary, in 12-step programs, they say what you mean, but don't say it mean.
Right. Okay.
Be respectful. And that's why the mantra is great. Come up with what your truth is and just present that. And then get up and walk out of the room, walk out of the house, hang up the phone, whatever it is that you need to do to create some space and some safety for yourself. And if we have two adults who are engaging in reactive behavior, of course, it's going to trickle down, and all of a sudden the kids are going to be fighting with each other and everyone's going to be bouncing off the walls. And so fresh air, boundaries, minding your thoughts.
Well, and you mentioned the kids, and the kids are watching it too. If they see a parent or both parents, if they can find more constructive ways to handle that, like the walk or the accepting when someone else sets the boundary, because life is not going to be conflict free. We are not going to go into these relationships where there's bluebirds on the shoulder and rainbows all the time. So learning how to handle those moments, even in a really great relationship, even in the healthiest of relationships, going for a walk is needed.
Yes, absolutely.
You can be married to Mr. Wonderful or Mrs. Right. You're going to go for walks.
That's right. And you don't have to have the last word. I think that so many arguments actually just escalate because you feel that you have to respond to the insult or the jab or the statement that the other person made. And it could be like, we could agree to disagree. Or let's go with that, or nonetheless, I have a different opinion. Like you don't have to, or nothing, or I hear you, and done. So if you're in close quarters and conflict and tension are bounding, and these tips are for you and your snarky teenager maybe, or your, I have two adults who lived on their own and now they're living with me. And so we have this interesting complexity, which is, well, whatever your rules were in your house when you weren't in my house aren't the same as the rules when you're in my house. And so all of these different things that we're dealing with being in confinement, these basic rules can go a long way to help.
I just want to make sure I understand. You had snarky teenagers. That's odd. That's really weird, Karen, because my teenagers have just been, really not snarky at all. Okay. Now I just lost all credibility. I will tell you one of the most difficult things I don't know what end of somebody, what end they may be on when they're going through the divorce process. But the hardest thing will be, even if you look at the other person and say, they're the narcissist, I'm needing to get out of it. Or if it's not a narcissist relationship, I just need out of the relationship. Is eventually it's supposed to be to where the eye of critical thinking comes back to you. supposedly the process, when I was walking through it with you, we would say, okay, yep, yeah. Now, how about you? And that's the part I think really set me back, because there are going to be pockets. There were, at least for me, there were pockets of our relationship where I was the bad guy. I was the problem. It was on me in that little moment where I was maybe the selfish one. And to actually acknowledge that, because it's easy to go, they are 100% the narcissist and the problem. I am 100% the angel. And in reality, I bet if we dissect Clint's relationship, there's a lot of places where Clint was an ass.
Well, actually, and the truth is, you're 100% responsible for the relationship, as is the other person. And so we always bring our part. And even in these relationships where you're dealing with pathological narcissism, the person who married that, they're bringing their dysfunction. Their dysfunction is typically codependency, people pleasing, perfectionism, a lack of self-love. And so they're bringing all of their stuff. And so you say you're the victim the minute you can begin to see how you came to the marriage with your issues, then that's the focus. The focus is working on your issues and keeping your side of the street clean, like not focusing on what's wrong with him or her and what they should do different and what's their fault. What's my responsibility, and how do I become the best person that I can become through the pain of this transition?
I would rather us just focus on them, if you don't mind, Karen, please. Can we just focus on the other person? That would make it easier for me. Thank you very much.
That sounds very familiar.
You stop it right now. Hey, so, okay, so let's do this, because I want to make sure people know how to find out about all your podcasts, not just the newest series, but your community, your Facebook. But you said something before we started, and I hope you're okay with me using this towards the end of the podcast or the video. But the deep breath moment where all this is very serious stuff. There are people who are in higher risk of demographics, and it's a scary time for those folks. And we are concerned and worried. But you said something before we came on, God has a plan.
Yeah. And so, it's interesting. I was just speaking to someone who's a shaman, and we were having the exact same conversation. So I'm a Christian, she was a shaman, and we were still saying this, what's happening is so much bigger than the stock market and the hospitals. This is a recalibrating of the human experience and an opportunity. There's no way as a world, as a people, we can emerge from this level of crisis the same way we entered. And I think a lot of people are finding themselves looking for meaning, working on their level of consciousness, reevaluating their faith, whatever that is, whether it's Mother Nature, the universe, Jesus Christ, that there is a transformation that's happening both on an individual level and a worldwide level.
We used to call that, when I grew up, an old-fashioned revival. But I also had revivals in parking lots and stuff, because I'm in that. All right, so let's do this. We've been on, perfect. We're going to be right at 25 minutes. I want to keep these kind of short because you got to get to the beach.
I do.
Get some sunshine. Tell everybody how to find all of your great content.
Great. So our podcasts are on every platform, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeart, and you just look up Journey Beyond Divorce, and you can subscribe to our shows. And we have 24 coming out on this divorcing a narcissist and high conflict divorce. We're also on Facebook, Journey Beyond Divorce. We're actually on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you hang out, Journey Beyond Divorce. And our website is jbddivorcesupport.com. And we have a ton of free resources, hundreds of articles, videos, podcasts to support you where you are. So feel free to reach out.
And your link is also in this description on this video. So if you didn't get all of that and you just want to have a starting point, go click. It takes you directly to her website, and you can start from there.
Perfect.
Hey, enjoy the sunshine up there, some vitamin D and the social distancing. Stay healthy and safe, though.
You as well. Thanks so much, and you take care.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye, Karen.
Bye-bye.